It's confirmed. NSN Cycling get their first big signing. The 2026 edition of the Giro d'Italia route has been revealed. Scott Bikes make a return to the peloton. And Soudal Quick-step team have been spotted in the woods wearing kilts. Hey folks, welcome to the Ride and Thrive podcast with me, your host, Dave Shills. And we've got a roundup of this week's news from the world of cycling. Okay then, so what have we got this week? So I've mentioned a few things in the previous weeks and they were all a little bit of rumours and hearsay and things that people have heard. Nothing really confirmed, but we've had a few things confirmed over the last week, mainly around NSN Cycling and the now defunct Israel Premier Tech. Remember, they took them over. So the first thing is that Scott Bikes are going to supply NSN Cycling for next year. So Israel Premier Tech had Factor Bikes sponsoring them and providing their bikes. And obviously, if you remember, Factor Bikes left Israel Premier Tech just before the end. So they were kind of left bikeless. So Scott have now filled that void. So they've come back to the peloton. So that'll be great to see what they can bring into the mix. And also, NSN Cycling have got their first big signing, and it is the 2024 Tour de France green jersey winner, Biniam Girmay. And again, this was heavily rumoured from last week, but it actually has been confirmed now that the rider has signed on a 3-year deal from Team Intermarché Wanty. Okay, so next up then, we've got the Giro d'Italia 2026 route has been revealed. Now, I often think that this particular race is overshadowed by the Tour de France. It's early on in the calendar before the Tour de France, and a lot of the biggest riders kind of skip it because they're training for the Tour de France. So a lot of people saying that this course has been designed to try and attract some big names into it. So let's go over some of the details then. So it starts on the 8th of May and it is starting in Bulgaria. So the first 3 days are in Bulgaria. There's over 50,000 meters of climbing. There are 8 sprint stages, 6 kind of hilly stages, and then 6 mountain stages, with 1 pan-flat TT over 40 kilometres. Most of the pundits are saying that it's a bit of a mismatch of stages that, you know, it's going to be dependent on how the riders feel, what's their appetite for making a race of it, that actually is going to decide whether it's actually going to be a spectacle or not. But some people are saying that it's kind of quite heavy on the back end in terms of the big mountain stages, and that will have an influence on the overall GC more so than what goes on in the first 2 weeks. In other words, it could be a fairly boring race depending on who does what in the early stages. Big names haven't been confirmed yet for the race, so we're waiting on to hear that, who's going to go for it. However, I've mentioned again before on this podcast that Jonas Vingegaard has expressed an interest in wanting to actually win the race and add it to his palmares, because he already has the 2 other Grand Tours, so he would like to enter. Also, Remco Evenepoel, he's hoping to attract him, another big name, and a few people mentioning Isaac Del Toro from Team UEA. He's the young rising star of that team. He could actually make an appearance there as well. But we'll wait to see. You know, that the proof of the pudding. It's going to be an exciting race anyway. It's the start of the first of the big Grand Tours. So we'll wait and see how that comes out. But more details of the route and that in the weeks to come. Okay, what next? Team Soudal Quick-step put something on Instagram. Now, at this time of year, a lot of the teams go on a bit of a team building trip, and a lot of them sort of get a lot lambasted for this, or lampooned. But yeah, I think it's the end of the season and they're ramping up to the new season. So they like to do something a little bit fun. And I think UAE went out to Dubai or somewhere, maybe Abu Dhabi, can't remember. And, they were doing stuff out in the desert, various things. Anyway, Team Soudal Quick-step put a few pictures on Instagram, and their team were running around the woods. I think it was in Belgium, and they were wearing kilts, and they were doing things like throwing axes, and they were carrying this log, doing all this kind of this team building stuff, which it looked quite cool. I'll put a picture up for you to see what it looked like. Okay, next up then, Matthew van der Poel and Wout van Aert are going to be going head to head in 5 big cyclocross races this winter. So this is quite exciting. Now they've both got a full program of racing through the winter in terms of cyclocross. However, there are 5 races that they've both entered, so they'll be going head to head in those races. One of them, notably, sorry, the races are the World Cup races. One in Antwerp on December the 20th, and one in Zonhoven on January the 4th. So that'll be interesting. Just a little taster, a little teaser of those two guys. See how they're getting on with their racing. So we'll be looking out for them. Okay, one last thing to wrap up then. So Team Alpecin de Koenig, so they have now changed their name. They've got a new title sponsor. So de Koenig have departed, and now we have got Premier Tech. So Premier Tech, obviously from Israel, Premier Tech, they left those guys at the end of the season. So they are now going to become Alpecin Premier Tech for 2026. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be a few other moves in terms of sponsors and bikes, so we'll do our best to keep you updated of those moves, and we will have a roundup for the end of 2025. We're getting towards the end of 2025 now, so we'll have a roundup of all the news, all the big moves, and also the big transfer news, all the major transfer news, just a roundup of all that towards the end of the year to try and dot the I's and cross the T's and ready for next year. Okay, so that's it for me for this week. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Please like and subscribe and share the podcast. It all helps. That would be great. And I will be back again next week to bring you some more news, another roundup. Until then,